When we think of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, it's easy to be swept up by the thrill of massive battles, daring lightsaber duels, and the heartbreak of the Jedi's fall. But beneath the roaring clash of armies, beneath the flashing swords and the smoke of war, there is something quieter, something deeper. A web of secrets, hidden moves, and choices that quietly shape the galaxy's destiny. The Clone Wars wasn't just a war, it was a stage where the Force, the Sith, and even fate itself played their hands. Over the years, fans have dug into every corner of this story, uncovering hidden truths that spark questions that reach far beyond the battlefield. Why did Ahsoka really walk away from the Jedi? Did Captain Rex see Anakin's darkness before anyone else? And what if Ahsoka was more than a Padawan, but part of the Force's plan to prepare a new hero? These questions linger long after the last droid falls, or the final saber is extinguished. The Clone Wars was more than clones versus droids. It was a crucible, testing the galaxy's heroes, villains, and the very currents of nature itself. From Count Dooku's shadows to Palpatine's secret manipulations, every choice was part of a larger story. Even the clones bred for obedience wrestled with loyalty, freedom, and conscience. And the Force wasn't just a silent witness, it was active, bending events, guiding paths, and sparking endless debate. Ahsoka's exit, the unusual skills of the Bad Batch, all of it hints that the Force may have had a plan. But was it a plan for balance or chaos? This isn't just a retelling, it's a journey into the hidden truths of one of the most compelling eras of Star Wars. So, gather your courage, maybe grab a blanket and travel with me to a galaxy far, far away to follow the secrets of the Clone Wars. Ahsoka Tano's story begins with resilience, loss, and the quiet discovery of self. The Clone Wars shaped her, as it shaped so many, under the unseen forces that swirled around them. But her departure from the Jedi Order wasn't as simple as leaving behind a badge and a saber. What if it wasn't entirely her choice? What if Yoda, one of the wisest beings in the galaxy, had nudged her toward the path that would save her from the tragic fate of the Jedi? For centuries, Yoda had honed the ability to sense ripples in the Force, to feel consequences before they arrived. During the Clone Wars, the dark side clouded his sight, but his connection remained strong. It's possible he foresaw Ahsoka's path and acted in subtle, deliberate ways. Her trial for a crime she didn't commit, the bombing that shattered her trust in the Jedi Council, seemed at first to be a failure of the Order. But Yoda's quiet presence during that time raises the question, did he allow events to unfold, knowing she needed to leave to survive? Yoda's words at the trial's end, "Your path uncertain it is," carry more weight than they first seem. To the untrained eye, they are just caution, but perhaps they were a subtle push toward destiny. Leaving the Order saved her life. Order 66 would have made her a prime target, a Jedi on the front lines. By stepping away, she avoided certain death. Perhaps Yoda foresaw the purge and gently steered her toward a future the Jedi couldn't see. His silence, his restraint, could have been a deliberate act, trusting the Force to guide Ahsoka along a path she could only walk alone. Beyond survival, leaving the Order allowed her to grow, to become a force for balance outside the rigid structures of the Jedi. She would later assist the Rebel Alliance, guide new heroes, and act as a spark of hope in a galaxy teetering on the edge of chaos. Yoda's wisdom, subtle and enigmatic, understood that some lessons could only be learned outside the Order. His decision was not without risk. Ahsoka could have fallen to darkness, could have been lost, but in the bigger picture, the Force's balance required her to step into her own destiny. Her absence also left Anakin exposed, fueling his anger and sense of betrayal, which drew him closer to darkness. Yoda would have understood this ripple effect, the sacrifice needed to achieve balance. Perhaps even Anakin's fall and later redemption were pieces of a larger plan. Ahsoka's journey embodies hope, courage, and the power of forging one's own path. And Yoda's guidance, though quiet, ensured her survival and the continuation of her vital role in the galaxy. Even in the darkest times, her story is a light, a reminder that resilience matters, that one choice can echo across worlds. The Bad Batch were anomalies from the start. Clone Force 99 was different from their brothers in ways that science alone couldn't explain. Each member possessed abilities that seemed larger than life. Hunter's instincts, Wrecker's strength, Tech's genius, Crosshair's precision, Echo's enhancements. These weren't just genetic tweaks. There was something extraordinary about them, as if the Force itself had touched their creation. The experiments on Kamino may have refined their bodies, but something deeper shaped their minds and destinies. Their abilities made them legends on the battlefield, but also gave them freedom from the inhibitor chipsets that would command every other clone during Order 66. Where most clones followed without question, the Bad Batch resisted, raising questions about the intersection of genetics, destiny, and the Force's unseen influence. Their story isn't just one of war. It's about identity, choice, and the power of being set apart. Things were never as simple as they seemed. Their genetic differences, while giving them incredible strength and sharp minds, also made the chips implanted in them act unpredictably. The resistance wasn't complete, nor the same for everyone. Crosshair, for example, felt the full weight of the chip. During Order 66, his obedience was absolute, a clear reminder that even the Bad Batch, with all their unique traits, were not completely free from the programming. The chip amplified his loyalty, turning him into an unwilling instrument of the Emperor's plan. This is important because it shows that their resistance wasn't total immunity, but rather a side effect of their unusual genetics. The idea that the Force specifically influenced their creation as a balance to the dark side must be considered carefully with this in mind. Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, and Echo reacted differently. Hunter, with his heightened senses and natural leadership, seemed almost instinctively able to resist the chip, though whether that came from his mutations or sheer determination is unclear. Wrecker, with his immense strength, struggled more visibly, showing the chip still had some hold over him. Tech, with his sharp intellect, could analyze the situation more calmly, yet even he wasn't completely free. Echo, altered physically during his time as a Separatist prisoner, was already unique, which further complicated how the chip affected him. These differences hint that their genetic traits disrupted the chip's programming, creating gaps where control could not take hold. This explanation fits better with the known facts than the idea that the Force directly designed them. The Kaminoans, brilliant scientists as they were, had no connection to the Force. Their work was pure genetic engineering, precise and calculated, not mystical. Still, the question lingers. Why did the Bad Batch exist? If they were meant as experimental clones, what purpose did they serve? And why did they appear during one of the most turbulent times in the galaxy's history? Maybe, just maybe, the Force nudged events quietly, guiding the emergence of clones capable of resisting Order 66 when they were most needed. The Force often works indirectly, weaving paths in ways that are subtle and unseen. The Bad Batch's partial resistance also opens a bigger conversation about free will. For most clones, the chips removed all choice, turning them into tools of Palpatine's will. But the Bad Batch, thanks to a mix of genetics and personal traits, kept some autonomy. They could question orders, make their own decisions, and carve a path separate from the Empire. Their story is a testament to individuality and choice in a system designed to erase both. Their bond with each other also mattered. Unlike the standard clone units trained to act as one, the Bad Batch moved more like a family. Their trust and respect for one another gave them strength and helped shield them from control, even when the odds were against them. Similar stories can be seen in clones like Rex and Fives. Rex's resistance came only after his chip was removed, and Fives warned him first. Unlike the Bad Batch, their defiance required external action. Yet the theme is the same, the fight to maintain individuality against forces designed to crush it. The Bad Batch's story is about defiance, not just against orders, but against the very idea of being controlled. Their existence proves clones were more than tools of the Republic. Even in systems built for obedience, individuality can emerge. Whether their differences were scientific accidents or influenced by something greater, they became symbols of resilience and freedom. In a galaxy consumed by war, they stand apart, guided not by programming, but by something stronger, their own sense of purpose. The Zillo Beast, created by ancient Sith, is one of the most mysterious creatures to appear in the Clone Wars. A giant armored reptile, its scales could deflect lightsabers, and its strength terrified Republic forces. Its presence inspired awe, but also deep questions. Was it a natural product of evolution, or the deliberate creation of something darker? Many believe the Sith engineered it as a weapon against the Jedi, a living testament to the dark side's ingenuity and power. Its sheer size and might made it a force that demanded attention, a puzzle that challenged even the greatest minds of the Republic. To explore this theory, we first need to look at the facts and the world they come from. According to official accounts, the Zillo Beast comes from Malastare, a planet known for its pod races and the strange, proud culture of the Dug people. Once these beasts roamed freely across the land, strong and wild, until the Dugs began to see them as a danger. Their enormous size, unmatched strength, and sheer power made them enemies to be feared. Over time, the Dugs drove nearly all of them to extinction, leaving only one, or so they believed. By the time of the Clone Wars, most thought the Zillo Beast was nothing more than a legend, a story told around fires by the Dugs to keep their history alive. Then, during a fierce battle between the Republic and Separatist forces on Malastare, a colossal electron bomb went off, awakening a surviving Zillo Beast. Suddenly, what was myth became real again, reminding the galaxy that these creatures were natural, not created by Sith hands. Yet the Zillo Beast's incredible toughness, able to withstand lightsabers, and its long history of conflict with the Dugs still leave questions. Could it have inspired the legends and dark experiments of the Sith? Were their obsessions with creating unstoppable weapons shaped by creatures like this, rather than by pure ambition? Jedi lightsabers were more than tools. They were extensions of the Force, symbols of power and identity. A creature that could resist them would have been a nightmare for any Jedi, a living challenge to everything they believed. In this way, the Zillo Beast seems almost like a natural reflection of the Sith's dark ambitions, a being with traits any dark alchemist might have sought to engineer. But the records are clear. The Zillo Beast's power is born of biology, not magic. Its scales, strength, and resilience are extraordinary, yet they do not show any connection to the Force. Unlike Sith creations like the Tantic, which were bred to hunt Jedi using their own connection to the Force, the Zillo Beast's might comes from evolution alone. Its clashes with the Dugs fit a natural predator-prey story rather than a tale of dark interference. If the Sith had crafted it, there would be traces, artifacts, histories, or curses tied to their power. Instead, the Zillo Beast belongs to its world, shaped by the land and its own survival instincts until the Dugs intervened. Still, its return during the Clone Wars cannot be ignored. Was it chance or something greater at play? The Force often moves in hidden currents, steering events to restore balance. The reemergence of the Zillo Beast forced the Jedi and the Republic to face uncomfortable truths: their reliance on war, their willingness to use living beings as tools, their moral compromises. Palpatine's fascination with the creature, seeing it as a source for armor or weapons, only deepened its story. The Zillo Beast became a symbol of power twisted into exploitation, a living being reduced to a resource in the endless struggle for control. Awakened by the very war meant to protect the galaxy, the Zillo Beast was captured, studied, and eventually killed, its life cut short not by natural foes but by those who sought to harness its strength. Because of its rare and extraordinary traits, whether it grew naturally or was shaped by dark experiments, the Zillo Beast became another casualty in the galaxy's endless wars. Its death reminds us not only of lives lost, but of the countless creatures destroyed, beings that can never be replaced. Though the Zillo Beast was officially a creature of nature, every scale, every movement of it fits perfectly into the stories we know. It stands at the crossroads of life and battle, a living question about power, control, and survival. Its scales could not be pierced by lightsabers, not because Sith hands forged them, but as if the galaxy itself had put up a wall for those who would challenge it. The beast becomes a living echo of every struggle the Jedi and Sith have fought for thousands of years, connecting ancient wars to the battles tearing the galaxy apart now. Even if the idea of Sith creation does not align with what is canon, it allows us to see the Zillo Beast as more than a creature. It is a mirror to the untamed mysteries of the universe, a symbol of what is lost when those in power exploit the wild and unknown. It stands as a memory of Malastare's past and a warning of the ethical trials the Republic will face, a bridge between what was and what is yet to come. The Republic's clone army was an astonishing achievement, a testament to genetic science and the organization of war, and it became central to the Clone Wars. These soldiers were precise, loyal, and formidable, all built from the genetic blueprint of one man, Jango Fett, the bounty hunter whose skill and cunning defined what it meant to be a warrior. Some believe the army drew on the traditions of ancient Mandalorian forces, but the truth lies in the shadow of the Sith. It was Darth Sidious and his agents, not homage or history, who determined the path of the clones. To understand this fully, we must look closely at the origin of the army and the role Jango Fett played. Jango Fett was not chosen by Kamino for their own reasons. The Sith, through Count Dooku, also known as Darth Tyrannus, decided he would be the perfect template. The Kaminoans executed the technical work, but the choice, the purpose behind it, came from the dark hands of Palpatine, part of a scheme to enforce Order 66 and destroy the Jedi. The Kaminoans built what they were asked without thought for history, honor, or politics. Jango's Mandalorian identity complicates matters. He wore the armor and displayed the skill of a Mandalorian, yet the official Mandalorian government under Duchess Satine denied him, calling him no true Mandalorian. Whether politics or old divisions drove this claim, it made any connection between Jango's heritage and the Republic Army unclear. What mattered to the Kaminoans was Jango's skill. His body, mind, and combat instinct made him perfect for passing on to an army of soldiers. The notion that the clones were built from ancient Mandalorian training has no canonical support. Instead, the Kaminoans shaped obedience and combat skill, creating fighters who could act without question. The army's deadly efficiency against the Jedi, especially during Order 66, was not a matter of culture, but of implanted control. Inhibitor chips in their brains forced them to obey, and Palpatine's manipulation made betrayal possible, even after years of trust and shared battles. The clones' discipline mattered, but the real power lay in control, not culture. Yet Jango's influence cannot be dismissed entirely. Part of his role was to train a select group, passing down the methods that had made him a legendary fighter. This created a thread of Mandalorian combat style, limited but real, woven into the army. Even their armor carries echoes of Mandalorian design. Though not identical, the segmented plating, practical shapes, and T-shaped visors remind observers of the warriors who inspired it. Because of its rare and extraordinary traits, whether it grew naturally or was shaped by dark experiments, the Zillo Beast became another casualty in the galaxy's endless wars. Its death reminds us not only of lives lost, but of the countless creatures destroyed, beings that can never be replaced. Though the Zillo Beast was officially a creature of nature, every scale, every movement of it fits perfectly into the stories we know. It stands at the crossroads of life and battle, a living question about power, control, and survival. Its scales could not be pierced by lightsabers, not because Sith hands forged them, but as if the galaxy itself had put up a wall for those who would challenge it. The Beast becomes a living echo of every struggle the Jedi and Sith have fought for thousands of years, connecting ancient wars to the battles tearing the galaxy apart now. Even if the idea of Sith creation does not align with what is canon, it allows us to see the Zillo Beast as more than a creature. It is a mirror to the untamed mysteries of the universe, a symbol of what is lost when those in power exploit the wild and unknown. It stands as a memory of Malasthar's past and a warning of the ethical trials the Republic will face, a bridge between what was and what is yet to come. The Republic's clone army was an astonishing achievement, a testament to genetic science and the organization of war, and it became central to the Clone Wars. These soldiers were precise, loyal, and formidable, all built from the genetic blueprint of one man, Jango Fett, the bounty hunter whose skill and cunning defined what it meant to be a warrior. Some believe the army drew on the traditions of ancient Mandalorian forces, but the truth lies in the shadow of the Sith. It was Darth Sidious and his agents, not homage or history, who determined the path of the clones. To understand this fully, we must look closely at the origin of the army and the role Jango Fett played. Jango Fett was not chosen by Kamino for their own reasons. The Sith, through Count Dooku, also known as Darth Tyrannus, decided he would be the perfect template. The Kaminoans executed the technical work, but the choice, the purpose behind it came from the dark hands of Palpatine, part of a scheme to enforce Order 66 and destroy the Jedi. The Kaminoans built what they were asked without thought for history, honor, or politics. Jango's Mandalorian identity complicates matters. He wore the armor and displayed the skill of a Mandalorian, yet the official Mandalorian government under Duchess Satine denied him, calling him no true Mandalorian. Whether politics or old divisions drove this claim, it made any connection between Jango's heritage and the Republic Army unclear. What mattered to the Kaminoans was Jango's skill. His body, mind, and combat instinct made him perfect for passing on to an army of soldiers. The notion that the clones were built from ancient Mandalorian training has no canonical support. Instead, the Kaminoans shaped obedience and combat skill, creating fighters who could act without question. The Army's deadly efficiency against the Jedi, especially during Order 66, was not a matter of culture, but of implanted control. Inhibitor chips in their brains forced them to obey, and Palpatine's manipulation made betrayal possible, even after years of trust and shared battles. The clones' discipline mattered, but the real power lay in control, not culture. Yet Jango's influence cannot be dismissed entirely. Part of his role was to train a select group, passing down the methods that had made him a legendary fighter. This created a thread of Mandalorian combat style, limited but real, woven into the army. Even their armor carries echoes of Mandalorian design. Though not identical, the segmented plating, practical shapes, and T-shaped visors remind observers of the warriors who inspired it. From the earliest days, doubt began to quietly take root among those closest to him, shaping the hidden resistance that would emerge later. Captain Rex's experience during Order 66 stands as one of the most moving examples of a clone wrestling with the deadly pull of the inhibitor chips. When the command came, Rex faltered at first, raising his blasters against Ahsoka Tano, his loyal ally and friend. Yet something deep inside refused to obey completely. It was Ahsoka's presence, her deep bond with the Force, that gave him a brief, shining moment of clarity. Even as the programming fought for control, Rex struggled to voice what he felt, urging Ahsoka to find fives before the chip regained its grip. With her help, Rex's chip was surgically removed, freeing him from the unseen chains that had bound him. His resistance was never just a matter of stubbornness. It was the blend of his bond with Ahsoka, her touch of the Force, and his own flicker of individuality. Other clones like Gregor and Wolf found their own ways to remove the chips before Order 66, proving that under the right conditions, the human spark within them could survive. Gregor, celebrated for his skill and independence, lived long enough to fight alongside Rex and Wolf in the uncertain peace after the war. Together, they became a rare but powerful example of clones who could step out from the shadow of control and claim their own lives. The role of loyalty shaped much of the tragedy. The chips imposed an irresistible compulsion, yet the clones' ingrained sense of duty and trust in their chain of command pushed them further into obedience. Palpatine's authority as Supreme Chancellor gave weight to the Order, making the story of Jedi betrayal easier to accept. Following orders became more than programming. It became the echo of purpose they had always known. This duality made their actions all the more heartrending. Even as the chips forced them into violence, their loyalty to the Republic was twisted into a weapon against them. Fear and chaos added to the weight on their shoulders. Years of war had built a relentless pressure, leaving them dependent on the order of their commanders. When Order 66 came, the world shifted overnight. The Jedi, once their guides, were suddenly enemies, and the sudden authority of the command made questioning almost impossible. Yet even in this storm, moments of defiance appeared. Five's tireless search for truth, Rex's fleeting resistance, and others' courageous decisions to remove their chips revealed that their minds were not entirely imprisoned. They could think, they could feel, and they could choose. Rarely, but meaningfully. The tragedy of the clones deepens when we remember the system that made them. Born for war, denied the freedom to chart their own lives, they were pawns in a vast, impersonal game. The inhibitor chips were betrayal made flesh, stripping them of self-control and turning them against those they once called friends. And yet, even under such crushing influence, traces of humanity remained. Their choices, small and brave, show that the essence of who they were could not be entirely erased. After Order 66, the paths of the clones diverged sharply. Some continued to serve the Empire, their loyalty now bound to a regime that saw them as expendable. Others, like Rex, chose freedom, seeking life beyond the battlefield. This split tells us something vital. Individuality endured, even in a galaxy that tried to suppress it. Fives' sacrifice echoes through these stories. Though ignored in life, his warnings became a beacon for those who survived. His courage became a reminder that questioning authority and standing for what is right can leave a mark that survives even the darkest times. The story of the clones is one of depth, pain, and unexpected strength. The chips stole much, but they could not steal everything. In the quiet defiance of Fives, Rex, Gregor, and Wolf, we see humanity persisting, even when the odds are impossible. Each choice to resist, each act of clarity, reminds us that even in total control, there is a space for freedom. The clones were never just soldiers, they were people, each carrying their own memories, fears, and courage. Captain Rex, standing shoulder to shoulder with Anakin Skywalker across endless battlefields, carried not only the weight of the war, but a quiet awareness of the shadows within his general. Their bond was forged in respect, trust, and the shared burden of countless campaigns. Yet beneath the surface, Rex had observed moments that hinted at struggles even he could not fully name. He may not have known every secret or every fear that Anakin carried, but he saw enough. The subtle cracks in a Jedi's ideal, the shadows that sometimes flickered across a trusted friend's heart. Rex had always seen the galaxy through the eyes of a soldier, shaped by orders, duty, and the chain of command. That lens sometimes made it hard to fully act on what he sensed, even when things felt off. Anakin Skywalker was unlike any Jedi Rex had ever known. Bold, magnetic, alive with emotion, not the calm, reserved type most Jedi seemed to be. For the clones standing beside him, Anakin's fire was inspiring. He didn't treat them as tools or pawns, but as people, as comrades. Rex, being close to him, felt that bond deeply, and it created a loyalty and trust that was almost unshakable. But Anakin's intensity came with shadows. The Clone Wars were brutal, pushing everyone to their limits, and Anakin, with his daring heart, often skirted the line between bravery and recklessness. On the battlefield, those risks sometimes turned impossible fights into victories. Other times, they left Rex unsettled, watching his commander's fury flare when friends were threatened or innocent lives were caught in the crossfire. These moments were hints, small windows into a storm inside Anakin that Rex could not fully see, a storm that would one day consume him. Much of what Anakin wrestled with stayed hidden. His secret marriage, his private doubts about the Jedi Council, his fears and grief. These were things Rex never witnessed. All Rex had was the outward display, the unstoppable drive, the rare defiance of orders, the fierce protection of those he cared about, no matter the cost. And yet, even in that, Rex knew he had limits. The clones were trained to follow, to obey. Questioning a Jedi commander, especially one as gifted and victorious as Anakin, was not just impossible, it was forbidden. Even if Rex felt unease at times, it had to remain silent. The presence of Ahsoka Tano made the dynamic even more complicated. She brought a warmth to their world, a connection that split loyalties. When she left the Jedi Order, the impact on Anakin was profound, and Rex, knowing her well, saw the weight it placed on him. That moment revealed the depth of Anakin's emotional bonds, the intensity that could lift him or leave him vulnerable. Rex's own connection to Ahsoka would grow, eventually guiding his choices in ways Anakin never could. During Order 66, when clones turned against their Jedi, Rex initially fell to the programming. But Ahsoka's intervention, her bond to him, gave him a chance to resist long enough for the inhibitor chip to be removed. That act of defiance reshaped his path, putting him on a journey separate from the man he had once followed without question. In the quiet moments after the war, Rex might have reflected on the signs he never fully understood, the nuances of a leader whose fall was hidden from him. He never knew the full truth of Darth Vader. Yet the echoes of Anakin's choices, the betrayals and heartbreaks, lingered in his mind. His life became a testament not to awareness of darkness, but to endurance, to choosing one's own way when the world seemed bent on control. Loyalty, respect, love, and loss, all of it defined him, shaping him into something more than a soldier. something entirely his own. Even in war's chaos, in the shadow of heartbreak and betrayal, there were moments of humanity, of trust, and of connection that endured. Rex may not have grasped every secret, every hidden struggle of Anakin, but his story holds a place in the vast tapestry of the Clone Wars, showing the strength of the bonds that war cannot erase, the choices that define us, and the resilience of a soldier learning to see beyond orders, beyond duty, into his own path. Count Dooku, known later as Darth Tyrannus, had his own designs, a plan meant to end the Sith. The most intriguing figure in the Star Wars saga is a Jedi who turned to the dark side, a man who moved silently through the shadows of the galaxy. He was both the public face of the Separatists and a pawn in Darth Sidious's grand design. Yet whispers persist that Dooku may have held ambitions of his own to topple Sidious and reshape the galaxy according to his vision of order. While canon tells us Dooku was Sidious's apprentice, his choices, philosophies, and private thoughts hint at a mind far more complicated. His story is one of power, manipulation, and a quiet, tragic surrender. To understand this possibility, we must look at what drove Dooku. Unlike many Sith, his fall was not born purely of greed or hatred. He grew disillusioned with the Jedi Order and the Republic, seeing them fail the galaxy at every turn. As a former Jedi Master, he watched the Order struggle to confront corruption and disorder, and his frustration grew. Coupled with the death of his former apprentice, Qui-Gon Jinn, these feelings pushed him towards Sidious's orbit. Sidious promised him the chance to enforce his vision of galactic order, a world where strong, centralized control would replace chaos and corruption. Qui-Gon Jinn played a key role in shaping Dooku's path. Known for challenging the Jedi Council and thinking outside the rules, Qui-Gon embodied traits Dooku admired deeply. Their bond was strong, but Qui-Gon's death at Darth Maul's hands shook Dooku to his core, convincing him that the Jedi could not protect the galaxy. This loss may have made the dark side seem like the only way to bring justice and stability, even if that meant embracing a path he never truly desired. His loyalty to Sidious was complex, tethered to ideals that went beyond destruction. Dooku did not seek chaos for its own sake. He wanted a galaxy freed from the flaws he saw in both the Republic and the Jedi. Sidious, as always, was a master manipulator. From the beginning, he used Dooku to serve his greater plan, keeping him in a position where true power was always just out of reach. The Separatist movement, which Dooku led openly, was little more than a stage for Sidious to weaken the Republic. Even as Dooku may have believed in the cause, he was always playing a role crafted by his master. Any step toward independent power was always under Sidious's shadow, a reminder of how tightly the Sith controlled their apprentices. The Rule of Two, the Sith law that the apprentice must one day overthrow the master, cast a long shadow over Dooku. The temptation to seize power may have existed, but Sidious's unmatched cunning and foresight left almost no opportunity. Dooku lacked allies capable of challenging his master. The Separatist armies were droids and corporate troops, assets Sidious could discard without hesitation. His attempts to train Asajj Ventress, a dark side assassin, show he may have been quietly planning a rebellion. Yet even this was curtailed by Sidious, highlighting how little freedom he ever truly had. Dooku's final duel with Anakin Skywalker aboard the Invisible Hand shows the depth of his resignation. He fights with skill and determination, yet defeat is inevitable. When Sidious commands Anakin to kill him, Dooku does not lash out or plead. He seems both shocked and resigned, a man who understands too late that his master has always been several moves ahead. His doubts, his ambitions, even his plans were crushed under the weight of Sidious's control. The tension between their visions strengthens the theory of Dooku's hidden intentions. Dooku's ideas of a controlled, efficient, and just galaxy stood in stark contrast to Sidious's empire of fear and absolute rule. He may have seen their alliance as temporary, a way to gather power before imposing his vision. But fate, manipulated by Sidious and accelerated by Anakin's rise, would not allow it. Whatever Dooku had imagined, it ended in tragedy. His life, his choices, his fall, all became a cautionary tale of power's danger and the seductive pull of darkness. His legacy is one of complexity, ambition, and sorrow, a story of a man who sought to remake the galaxy and instead found only ruin. His bond with Sidious shows just how fragile Sith alliances truly are, where trust is only a mask and betrayal waits around every corner. At the same time, Dooku's story pulls us into the quiet struggles within the Sith, a hint that even in the darkest hearts, there are layers, complexity, and moments of humanity. The idea that Dooku might have plotted to turn on Sias and dismantle the Sith adds a weight to his presence, transforming him from a mere pawn in a sinister game into a man of ambition and conflicted purpose. While the full picture of his plans remains hidden, the traces left in his choices, his ties with others, and his beliefs sketch a portrait of someone torn between ideals and the harsh realities he must face. In the end, Dooku's path reminds us that even the strongest can falter under the weight of their own desires, their alliances, and the blind spots they cannot see. General Krell, one of the most infamous figures of the Clone Wars, is remembered for cruelty that cut to the core of every soldier under his command. His actions on Umbara forced the clones to confront just how fragile their trust in the Jedi really was. Krell's true motives are still debated. He openly declared his wish to join Count Dooku and the Separatists, but some have wondered if there was a deeper, darker method behind his brutal campaign, an experiment to see how clones would respond when turned against each other, testing the limits of loyalty, fear, and duty. While this theory adds intrigue, the facts we know from the stories tell a different side. Krell's aim during the Umbara battle was clear. He had foreseen the fall of the Republic and believed the Separatists, guided by Dooku, would rise victorious. His drive to join the Sith wasn't empty words. He wanted to be on the winning side. This intention makes it unlikely that everything he did was merely a cold experiment. Yet, his orders, his obsession with forcing clones to fight one another, and his brutal tactics suggest more than just battlefield strategy. They hint at a mind fascinated with control and domination, if not always with careful planning. One of Krell's defining traits was his contempt for the clones themselves. To him, they were tools, bred for war, expendable and replaceable. Under his command, their lives mattered little. He demanded relentless obedience, pushing them into scenarios that would see them unknowingly face their own brothers. These acts of forced fratricide marked the Umbara campaign, leaving deep scars, both physical and emotional. While some argue Krell's methods were designed to probe the clones' connection to the Force, the established canon suggests otherwise. Their bond came from shared DNA, not any unique spiritual link. Krell's cruelty arose from prejudice and ambition, exploiting loyalty and duty to enforce his will, not to conduct mystical research. Umbara itself shaped the story. Its shadowed skies, the constant dampened darkness, the ever-present sense of danger, all created a psychological pressure cooker for the soldiers. It may have intensified suffering, but there is no proof Krell used the environment as part of a deliberate Force experiment. His goal seemed simple: to crush the spirits of those under his command and assert his dominance. His leadership was chaotic, and often his poor choices brought death and failure, showing that his cruelty was not always calculated, but sometimes reckless. The idea that Krell's four-armed form granted him special force powers is false. His combat skill, his terror-inducing presence, and his effectiveness with twin double-bladed lightsabers came from training and natural ability, not supernatural enhancement. On Umbara, it was his cunning, his ruthlessness, and his sheer willingness to exploit the clones that left an impact, not any hidden mystical talent. When the clones finally turned against him, capturing him in the end, Krell responded with fury and scorn. He dismissed their defiance, refusing to see them as anything beyond tools, incapable of understanding his vision. This moment exposed his arrogance, his blindness to their humanity, and destroyed the notion that his actions had been part of a grand design. In truth, his downfall came from hubris, prejudice, and desperation. The final act came from Dogma, a clone who had wrestled with the morality of following Krell's commands. With steady resolve, Dogma executed Krell, an act that was justice, but also reclamation, an assertion of choice, morality, and agency by the clones who had endured so much under his rule. While some theories paint Krell as a secret experimenter of force-driven trauma, the evidence points to something simpler, yet just as dark: ambition and disdain, shaping every choice, each order, each act of cruelty. His methods on Umbara were ruthless and calculated in their horror, designed not to probe the Force, but to bend the clones to his will, breaking spirits to dominate. The shadow of Krell's command on Umbara still echoes through the stories of the Clone Wars, a dark and unforgettable chapter that forced the clones to face the harshest truths about their place beside the Jedi. His betrayal tore at the very bonds they had built, leaving scars that would shape their understanding of loyalty and leadership forever. Every action Krell took, whether seen as cold, calculated strategy or reckless cruelty, etched a mark of suffering and endurance into the soldiers under his command. Those who survived emerged hardened, their friendships and trust forged anew in the fires of deception and relentless battle. In the end, Krell became a warning of what happens when pride and power go unchecked, when compassion is ignored, and when one loses sight of duty. His fall from the Jedi Order and the devastation he wrought on Umbara mirror the larger tragedy of the Clone Wars, a war that eroded not just the Republic, but the hearts of those sworn to protect it. Whether driven by reason or chaos, Krell's story serves as a reminder of the danger in treating others as disposable, and of the strength found in reclaiming one's humanity amidst oppression. Ahsoka Tano's path through the Clone Wars tells a story just as gripping, though in a very different light. From a young, eager Padawan, she grew into a skilled and determined Force user, navigating the chaos of war while discovering her own voice. Her journey sparked countless fan theories, some even suggesting she was destined to replace Anakin Skywalker as the Chosen One. But the facts of the story, as told in canon, point to a more nuanced truth. The prophecy of the Chosen One at the heart of Star Wars legend always centered on Anakin, born of a miraculous virgin birth, chosen to bring balance to the Force. George Lucas confirmed that Anakin was meant to fulfill this destiny, and despite his fall as Darth Vader, he ultimately completed the prophecy by destroying both the Emperor and himself, restoring balance. Still, Ahsoka's story weaves closely with the themes of the prophecy, offering a mirror to Anakin's struggle rather than a replacement. Her time as his apprentice reflected not just her growth, but his. Her courage, moral clarity, and independence countering his recklessness, illuminating his strengths and weaknesses. Though her abilities were remarkable, they were the product of training and perseverance, not evidence of being the prophesied one. Her defining moment came during the wrongful accusation of treason, a test not just of skill, but of character. The betrayal by the Jedi Council forced her to choose between blind loyalty and her own moral compass. Leaving the Order was agonizing, yet it freed her to follow a path guided by her own sense of justice and integrity, showing a form of balance that Anakin struggled to maintain. Even after leaving, Ahsoka continued to embody the best of Jedi principles: compassion, selflessness, dedication to justice. The idea that she could have been Anakin's replacement often points to her emotional balance and wisdom, traits that might have spared her master from his tragic path. She resisted the rigid hierarchy and arrogance that plagued the Jedi, carving her own path that resonated with the true spirit of the Force. Yet the prophecy that marked Anakin as the Chosen One was rooted in miraculous origins, a direct imprint of the Force itself. Ahsoka, for all her skill and courage, did not share that same unique bond with destiny, making her story a parallel journey, a powerful counterpoint, rather than a replacement. Her story, however, is far from over. Her choices rippling across the galaxy as she faces enemies and allies alike, each step testing her resolve and each decision shaping the legacy she leaves behind. From the very beginning, Ahsoka Tano walked a path that was uniquely her own, shaping the galaxy in ways that no prophecy could have predicted. There is no solid evidence in the canon that the Force ever intended her to take on the mantle of the Chosen One. Instead, her journey through the Clone Wars and beyond runs alongside Anakin's, complementing his story rather than replacing it. As she stepped into the chaos of battle and the uncertainty of a galaxy at war, her choices illuminated a parallel path, one of courage, clarity, and independence. When Ahsoka left the Jedi Order, she freed herself from the strict codes and errors that had led to its collapse. She moved with purpose, guided by the Force but unbound by dogma, and became a beacon of hope. Her work with the rebellion, seen in her actions during the time of Star Wars Rebels, marked her as a key figure in the fight against the Empire. Her confrontation with Darth Vader on Malachor was more than a battle. It was a collision of what could have been and what was lost. In that moment, Ahsoka's strength, hope, and resilience shone through, even as she faced the painful truth of her former master's fall. Her journey adds weight and depth to the idea that she might have been an alternative chosen one, yet it never changes the core narrative. Anakin fulfilled the prophecy, ending the Sith and bringing balance to the Force through both his destruction and his redemption. Ahsoka's role was never to replace him. She showed the galaxy a different kind of path, one of balance, self-determination, and steadfast devotion to what is right. George Lucas confirmed this vision. The prophecy was always meant to center on Anakin, whose sacrifice and redemption completed the Skywalker saga. Ahsoka's story runs alongside, not above. It explores the Force's complexity, the power of choice, and the responsibilities that come with it. The theory that she might have been secretly meant to replace Anakin reflects the fascination her character inspires. It is a testament to her significance in the larger narrative, showing how the Force can act through unexpected individuals to shape destiny. Her departure from the Jedi, her role in the Clone Wars, and her later actions emphasize that balance and hope are not reserved for the chosen one. They can arise in anyone willing to walk their own path. Ahsoka Tano's legacy is one of courage, resilience, and moral clarity, showing the power of standing by one's principles, even when the odds are overwhelming. Long before Order 66 shattered the Jedi, there were whispers that ancient Jedi may have sensed the coming storm. The Purge, executed through the treacherous obedience of clone troopers, was a carefully laid trap by Darth Sidious, one the Jedi could not anticipate fully. Yet in their prophecies and teachings, some theorists argue there may have been shadows of these events, warnings of betrayal, of darkness rising, and of the Order's eventual fall. Prophecies were a cornerstone of Jedi tradition, offering guidance yet shrouded in mystery. Their dual nature, insight mixed with ambiguity, made them difficult to understand, especially in times of crisis. Some theorists suggest that ancient Jedi, through temples and holocrons, recorded echoes as warnings of these warnings. Places like Tython, Lothal, and Ahch-To preserve the knowledge of the Jedi, their connection to the Force, and lessons from battles fought long before the Republic. Though these temples did not provide exact predictions of Order 66, they stressed vigilance, the constant presence of the dark side, and the dangers of overconfidence. Jedi records spanning millennia detailed the rise and fall of the Sith, exposing cycles of betrayal and the consequences of blind trust. These teachings, passed through holocrons and temples, were cautionary stories meant to prepare future generations. They highlighted the dangers of complacency and the cunning of the dark side, lessons that became painfully clear as the Republic edged toward its twilight years. Even if the ancient Jedi had sensed the shadows of the Clone Wars and the coming of Order 66, their power to act on these signs was tightly bound, almost crushed under the weight of forces beyond their control. Long before the war erupted, the dark side, growing stronger under Darth Sidious, began to blur the Jedi's connection to the Force. This creeping darkness was no accident. It was Sidious's design. By hiding himself and pushing events from behind the curtain, he kept the Jedi always chasing crises, never truly seeing what was coming. Yoda and the Council spoke openly in Star Wars canon about this weakening of their foresight. They could feel it. They knew they were losing the ability to read the future, leaving them exposed, blind to the true scale of the war, blind to how deeply the Sith had already infiltrated their world. Even if they had received ancient warnings, their minds, clouded and strained, might not have been able to decipher them. The dark side's interference and the Jedi's slow drift from their spiritual core created the perfect storm. Another piece of the puzzle lay in the secrets of the Jedi temples themselves. By the time the Clone Wars began, many had been lost, forgotten, or destroyed after centuries of upheaval across the galaxy. On Lothal, the temple remained hidden, opening only to those sensitive to the Force. Without access to these sacred places, the Jedi Council could not reach the knowledge stored there. They lacked the tools to truly understand what lay ahead. The Order's own ways also worked against them. By the Clone Wars, the Jedi had become wrapped up in the politics of the Republic, moving from peacekeepers to generals, soldiers in a conflict that pulled them from their spiritual path. Their focus on the practical had pushed the mystical to the side. Teachings of prophecy and ancient war warnings seem distant, abstract, even irrelevant. Even if these messages were in reach, the Council's pragmatism may have kept them from taking such visions seriously. Palpatine's hand guided the chaos further. As both Supreme Chancellor and Sith Lord, he twisted the war to serve him, keeping the Jedi divided and isolated. His mastery of the dark side let him appear untouchable while steering the galaxy into darkness. The Jedi, pressed by the battles of the moment and shrouded by the dark side's mist, could not see the real danger until it struck. Yet, amid the turmoil, hints of understanding flickered. Yoda's journey to Moraband, the ancient Sith homeworld, in the final season, reveals this quietly. There, Yoda faces visions of the fall of the Jedi and the rise of Darth Sidious. Fragmented and symbolic, these visions carry a heavy weight, the sense of events already set in motion. Yoda's inability to change them shows the limits of prophecy. It can warn, suggest, even haunt, but it cannot always provide the clear path to prevent disaster. The notion that ancient Jedi foresaw the Purge layers the tragedy of Order 66 even deeper. Knowledge to stop it may have existed, but it was out of reach, buried beneath the dark side's veil, the Jedi's own detachment, and the fragile clarity of prophecy itself. The tragedy becomes more than a sudden betrayal. It is the result of long accumulating weakness. External forces manipulated the Order, while internal shortcomings left them exposed. Warnings of complacency, of betrayal, of the dark side's resurgence may have been there, echoing across time, but the cries were drowned in war, lost under Sidious's shadow. The ruins on Lothal and other Jedi temples stand now as monuments to what was and what might have been. Places alive with the Force, connecting past, present, and future. Reminders of a link the Jedi failed to hold during the Clone Wars. Their fall teaches that balance, humility, and remembering the past are not just lessons, they are survival. The Purge's horror lies not only in the sudden strike of betrayal, but also in what was overlooked, what might have been prevented. The dark side's smothering hand and the Jedi's own drift from their roots ensured the ancient warnings were never acted upon. It is a story of loss, of power misused, of wisdom ignored. Even the greatest and wisest are not beyond flaw, and the Force, in its vast, unknowable ways, always moves beyond complete understanding. The Sisters of Dathomir, cloaked in the shadows of their own magic and mystery, held a power that was both feared and admired across the galaxy. Their ways, strange and ancient, wove life and death into their rituals, shaping a story full of wonder, danger, and sorrow. Through the years of the Clone Wars, their presence echoed in the dark corners of the galaxy, their influence touching even the rise of the Sith, though always in ways that were subtle and complex. To truly understand them, one must look past simple tales of good and evil and see a people defined by their culture, their connection to Dathomir, and their ultimate fall. The Night Sisters were ruled by women of incredible power, leaders like Mother Talzin, who commanded not just respect, but awe. Their magic, born of their bond with the dark currents of Dathomir itself, was unlike the Sith's quest for power or domination. The sisters drew on this energy collectively through chants, dances, and rituals that bound their community together, creating warriors, spirits, and spells that could bend life and death. Among their creations were the Night Brothers, fierce and loyal, shaped not through fear, but through the sisters' mystical rites. While the Sith and the Night Sisters both reached for the dark side, their aims rarely aligned. The Sith sought control over the galaxy through fear, ambition, and the rule of two, striving for power that served only themselves. The sisters sought to protect their people, to keep the magic of their home alive, and to guide their clan with careful hands. Their practices sometimes touched, their knowledge overlapping, but it was never the same path, never the same intention. A story that binds them, however, is that of Talzin and Darth Sidious. Talzin, unmatched in her command of dark power, encountered Sidious long before the Clone Wars, drawn into promises of shared strength. Yet, when he took her son Maul to train as his apprentice, the bond shattered. Betrayal cast a long shadow, though what truly passed between them in those early years remains hidden, leaving only whispers of influence and a hint of knowledge exchanged. Sidious learned perhaps what he could from Talzin's magic, But his hunger for eternal life and conquest drew him deeper into the teachings of Darth Plagueis, whose mastery over life and death shaped the Sith's pursuit of immortality. The Night Sisters' magic and the Sith's dark ambitions often mirrored each other in theme, but diverged in practice. Where the Sith struck with force and ambition, the Sisters acted as one. Their rituals a collective heartbeat tied to the spirit of their land. Life and death, resurrection and control of spirits were tools in their hands, not for empire, but for the survival and protection of their clan. Asajj Ventress, caught between these worlds, carried the story of the Night Sisters into the wider galaxy. Once a Jedi apprentice, then a Sith assassin, she found refuge with them, and in her return to Dathomir, Talzin plotted vengeance. But vengeance brought ruin. Count Dooku, alerted to the scheme, unleashed General Grievous, and Dathomir burned. The Sisters fell, their power broken, yet traces of their influence lingered in Ventress, in Maul, and in the very soil of their home, whispering of a strength that even death could not fully erase. Even in ruin, Dathomir remained a living emblem of the Night Sisters' legacy. Its forests, creatures, and dark energy preserved the essence of their magic. Later travelers in Star Wars Rebels and Jedi Fallen Order would encounter remnants of their spells, the faint echo of a clan that once held the dark side, not as a weapon of conquest, but as a shield for their people. The tragedy of the Night Sisters lies in the contrast to the Sith. Where the Sith wielded the dark side to rule, the Sisters wielded it to sustain life, to protect, to endure. Their fall reminds the galaxy that power alone cannot protect those who stand apart from it. That the dark side is not a single path, but a river with countless currents. Even as their clan was destroyed, the paths they opened, the lessons they left, and the shadows they cast in the hearts of Ventress and Maul endured. The ties to the Sith, though indirect, deepen the story of their place in the galaxy. They show how different currents of power can meet, overlap, and diverge, shaping destinies without ever fully merging. In their story is a lesson about the Force itself, that strength comes in many forms, and that every choice, every spell, every life touched by the dark side carries both potential and peril. The legacy of the Night Sisters, woven from magic, loyalty, and heartbreak, is not lost. It lives on in the spirits they bound, the warriors they raised, and the echoes of their chants in the forests of Dathomir, whispering still of power, survival, and the cost of standing apart. Their story is one of beauty and sorrow, a reminder that even in a galaxy consumed by war, some lights burn quietly, fiercely, and tragically.